All right, so this week we are going over this episode, overcoming plateaus and recovery techniques. Such a good topic, Brando. That was such a good one because you know what? Half of the people that reach out to us say they've hit a plateau and they don't know what to do. They tried everything and they don't know how to get past it. So this is such a good topic to go over because there's so many people out there that if they tune into the podcast, they'll definitely benefit from this episode.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. And I think we've all been there as far as, hitting that plateau. And, I'll just go ahead and start off, first by saying, one of my biggest things I wanted to talk about today and for, our clients, for everybody that tunes into the podcast, appreciate you guys who are tuning into the podcast week to week, by the way.
Absolutely.
One of the hardest things to do inside and outside the gym is diagnosing your own problems, right? Your own issues, like looking in the mirror and being like, what am I doing wrong? Because you can tell yourself, man, I'm doing everything right, but are you really? It's going to take a lot of review from within, and it's going to have to be a lot of self-accountability to get through that plateau. Yeah, you can get a coach, you can have something put in front of you where it's like, do this, do that. And as coaches, we all know that even if you have that plan, if you have the keys to drive the car, some people just aren't willing to drive that car. Get to the destination. So if you are hitting the plateau, I want you to sit down. I want you to review your diet and nutrition. Think, am I recycling the same training methods over and over again? Am I implementing the right amount of cardio? And a big thing that we were talking about, the second part of the topic, which is, recovery techniques. When's the last time you took a break from the gym? Just a 1 week break to actually let your body heal and get back to 100%. Because I think a lot of people, why they plateau, I'm sure you guys are going to go over this and we could all guess what I'm about to say, is what? Overtraining. I'm somebody who dealt with that for a long time because I deal with a lot of anxiety, issues that I've got going on where the gym is like my place where I go to get it all out. But you're being counterproductive a lot of the times that you're in there and you're not giving your body that rest time. So yeah, that's just kind of what I wanted to start off, like five things that main topics like that. When you are diagnosing like why I've hit a plateau, those are some of the things you guys should be thinking about and figuring out a way to counterbalance, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. To get somewhere you've never been, you got to do something you've never done. So if you hit a plateau, remember that.
That brings me to my point is to get to where you've never been, you have to do something you've never done. So that brings me to what I wanted to speak about, and that is for people who are trying to burn fat, lose weight. This happened with a client of mine. They were like 350 pounds and they lost 100, which is unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. But then was 2 months where they could not get past that, right? You, unfortunately, like this is the name of the game, is you have to reverse diet. And there's reverse dieting two different ways. Reverse dieting to lose more weight and to burn more fat, and reverse dieting to build more muscle. So for example, for somebody who has gained or who lost that 100 pounds and they can't get past it, what is the reason they can't get past it? The reason is because they're hitting that plateau because they used all the muscle that they have. It brought them to burn that 100 pounds. So what do they have to do? They have to do a reverse diet. They probably drop their carbs, drop their fat, lower their macros like crazy, hit that cardio, right? But now what they have to do is think the opposite way. They need to go into a growth phase. They need to gain more muscle to burn more fat. You need to gain more muscle to burn more calories to burn more fat. Same thing if you're looking to grow, right? If we're looking to grow and you're like, man, I gained 30 pounds and now I can't get past that 30 pounds. And that's why some people reach out to me, hey, I can't get past gaining weight. Well, number one, I don't want you to think about like the whole time just gaining weight, because it's not all about just gaining weight. But there's a reason you can't get past that 30-pound weight gain. And that's because you need to reverse diet. You need to get all your levels normalized, especially with your blood work. You need to pull a little bit of carb, pull a little bit of fat. So the opposite of somebody who is trying to burn fat, obviously. So now we're doing the opposite. We're pulling the carb, pulling the fat, because for a really long period of time, they were bulking. They were throwing the food down their throat, throwing it down, throwing it down, throwing it down. Our bodies get used to metabolizing the food based off of how we're feeding it, right? So if we're at like a 5,000, 6,000 calorie cap, right? We're not going to go and take in 8,000, 9,000 calories because that's just unhealthy, right? So in my opinion, we need to pull back. We need to get our levels normalized again and then hit it hard for our next growth phase. Maybe lose 5 to 10 pounds, but that's okay because you're going to gain 20 to 30 more.
100%. I think you hit that right on the spot. Caleb, don't mean to interrupt, but just before I start, before you go, I wanted to just say, one of the main things that you'll see when guys come to us and their goal is, hey, I want to bulk. You see their weight, you see the way that their physique is, you get their blood work back, you're ready to prepare a nutrition plan. And they don't understand what's the first thing we got to do with the guys that are wanting to bulk. We got to put them through a flush. We got to start them from scratch. We can't build on top of what you already have. We need to break it down so we can have the room to growth, make sure everything is healthy as far as your joints, make sure that you're doing some mobility, making sure that we do implement some cardio in there. And then once we've flushed you out, 4 to 6 weeks, maybe it may take a little bit longer depending on the person, maybe a little bit shorter depending on the person. Then after that detox is complete, now we can really push the growing, but it's hard to hear that, when you come in and you're like, hey, I want to put on weight. In the first 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, you're not gaining any weight. You're actually losing weight.
Exactly. That's the hardest thing for people.
Exactly. And do they like the results? Yeah. They're like, well, man, I still look good. I'm liking the way that I look, but my goal was to bulk up. Be patient because there's a process, right? So now, once that we've completed our flush, we're going to be able to add food slowly but surely. We're going to be able to implement, more intense training sessions, getting out of the basics, getting out of the fundamentals, maybe adding a couple extra lifts a week. But that's really important, I think, to go over is that flush phase initially when you are looking to bulk, or even like Robbie said, if you've been going through a bulk, at some point you're going to not counter your goals, but short term, you're going to have to lose some weight. You're going to have to go through a flush to reset your level so we can push that growth. So yeah, it's just something I wanted to build on top of that.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, you guys touched on a lot of shit, man. So
sorry, Caleb, we hopped.
No, it's good. I told you I'd be kind of out of it. The only thing I kind of want to say is, like, if someone's really going through like a plateau, and like obviously if their biofeedback's not negative, if they haven't been building or cutting that long, so like in my mind, there's nothing that would cause them to plateau. I always kind of just tell them to look at lifestyle factors. A lot of people, unfortunately, don't think about sleep when they think about growth and fat loss and how that can affect hormones and like stress in the body. They don't think about perceived stress, like being stressed at work and how your body pulsates cortisol as a response to that perceived stress. A lot of people don't really think or give two shits about going to the bathroom every day, unfortunately, because a lot of people, especially women,
literally give two shits.
Yeah, really. Unfortunately, it's more so women, but don't really think it's normal to go to the bathroom every day. So it's just looking at lifestyle and little things like that, because typically if everything's been being done as it should and you're not too far into something and if something's not changing, usually it's those minuscule things that just compound and build and kind of snowball effect and roll over into one another that slow down a lot of progression. So that's the only thing I really add to it. You guys said it beautifully when you're building. Sometimes if you're coming from not such a good physique, you kind of need to clean out your digestive tract. You need to optimize some things and then go into a building phase. Otherwise, you're just like adding sludge on top of a machine that's not really working. It's like take your car, get a fucking tune up and an oil change. Kind of got to think your body the same way. You got to clean out some things, making sure it's functioning properly before you push 3,000-4,000 calories into your system. Because if it's not, you're just going to pile on shit, quote unquote, again, shit on top of shit on top of shit. That's not moving like it should. And then on the opposite side, like fat burning or cutting, whatever the hell you want to call it, kind of the same thing. If you're going into it and you're not in a really good starting point, and like, let's say you're under eating, you're stressed already, you're just going to keep putting more stress on the body. So it's probably going to be more beneficial to recovery or reverse diet real quick, set a good base maintenance, set a good foundation, and kind of get you to like a healthier spot before you go into a cut. So I think a lot of it's just like being proactive about what you're about to do and understanding your body and setting you up for success versus just going in gun ho because you're impatient as hell and having to redo things 4 weeks in.
Which is most of us. Most of us are impatient. We want to see growth. We want to see muscle growth. We want to see fat loss. Like, we're all impatient. We really are. We have to learn patience for sure in this name of the game.
And if you're at a plateau in a fat loss phase, like thermogenics are not going to fucking help. I hate when people ask that. At a plateau, should I take a thermogen? No, motherfucker, you shouldn't.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. And the big thing I agree with you on that top, what you just said is sleep. Sleep is huge. I had a client, Skylar. If he doesn't watch this, he's an asshole. I had a client, Skylar, and he came to me and he was like, dude, this exact thing. I'm hitting a plateau and I don't know why. My calories are at this, my macros are at this, blah, 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 blah. And it honestly took me a little bit. I'm like, why the hell isn't this kid growing? I put him through a flush and everything like that. And then finally on our app, thank God, if they have an Apple Watch, we could see how much sleep they get.
Yeah.
He was only getting like 4 hours, 3 hours. And I was like, dude, is this right? Or like, do you actually get more sleep than that and your just Apple Watch is like not working or something? He's like, oh no, that's how much sleep I get. I go to sleep. I'm a night owl and I have to wake up early for work. Well, that is the reason why I told him get to bed at this time. He set a timer. He got to bed, and the dude, I swear, I shit you not, started growing the next week.
They've done multiple studies, and people have broken up sleep or just lack sleep. If they can get a good sleep cycle, it's literally like being on a low dose of anabolics.
Yep.
I think
Speaking of
that's such a good
anabolics,
point.
and speaking of anabolics, I was just talking to another client who's actually natty, and we're putting him through a flush phase, just like you talked about, Brando, because he is trying to grow as much as possible as well. And we're putting him in through his flush phase. And I was like, after this flush phase, all your levels, your blood work, everything is going to be so perfect. Some of your levels are going to be super low that when we do start your growth phase again, it's going to be like you're on anabolics, because it actually does feel like that. Like food is huge, that it starts to feel like anabolics if you do it right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah, I think we've touched on a lot of external things too, nutrition, things you should do outside the gym. Just to touch base with some guys, because, all of us are online coaches. I think, Caleb, you do some in-person training. Robbie, you've done in-person training before. So have I. So the biggest thing that you'll notice between, when you train with your clients in person as well is, okay, now I can see how you train as far as how hard that you're actually pushing it, the intensity of those workouts. One thing that I want to touch base on is, especially when hitting a plateau, be honest with yourself. Just like I said earlier, diagnose the problem. When you're in the gym, there's a reason why our programs have a set rest time depending on the exercise. How much time are you taking in between your reps? Because I see guys, at one of the best gyms in Tampa, Powerhouse, I see guys all the time. Yeah, maybe their goal was to push for strength. Maybe their intervals are different, but you're taking 3 minutes in between each set, going on your phone, checking your social media, answering some text messages, looking through your email. You got to put that phone in your bag, put something on shuffle, and really intensify your training. And that's about being honest with yourself, because a lot of people will give off the presumption that they're training hard. Come train with your trainer in person, and let's see how hard that you're actually going, or how hard we can actually push you to do those 2 or 3 extra sets. Don't be afraid to get a guy or a girl to come over. Anybody in the gym, you ask them, unless they're just a dickhead, if you ask them, hey, will you spot me? You're going to be able to get 1 or 2 extra reps than if you're just in there going solo. And I like working out alone, but I'm also not the guy that's afraid to go and ask some additional help. 1, for my safety, and 2, because you have to get to that point if you want to see true growth. You shouldn't be hitting the same amount of reps, the same weight every single week. You have to track your stuff. You need to be able to intensify the workouts by lowering your time in between sets. There's a reason why when we build these programs, Robbie and I, Caleb, I haven't seen your programs yet, but Robbie and I, you'll always see a change in tempo in your programs, right? 1 month, you may have more supersets than you did before, in your program. Maybe we're going to a time under tension program where we're changing up the tempo, negatives, pause reps, slowing the eccentric, everything is slowed down. That's something that you have to do as well. Look at your training methods. Are you switching things up? Are you doing the same thing? And I'm not sitting here saying you want to perfect those exercises before you move on to your next thing, right? But you get stuck on something for too long because you don't know what to do, or you think like, oh, I like doing this exercise because A, it's not that difficult, or B, because you think that you can do more weight than you can on something else, then you're only shorting yourself in the long run. You want to be able to switch things up, change your split up, and make sure you're changing the tempos of your lift instead of just pushing for strength or pushing for volume, depending on what your physique goals are.
Heavy weight does not mean you're going to grow. If you're doing heavy weight and you're doing the workout correctly and you're focusing on the muscle that you're pushing, pulling with, or whatever, then it will grow. But you need to know how to do the workout before you can add weight. Stuff like leg press, for example. People throw weight on there, throw weight on there, throw weight on there, but they're just pushing. They're pushing however the hell they can get the weight up. But really, we want to focus on either if we're pushing with the hamstrings or we're pushing with the quad. So if you're pushing with the quad, you need to make sure you're doing it correctly. And it's funny when you see somebody in there throwing so many plates on, and they've been doing it for years, but their legs aren't showing it. You know what I mean? Because you could be strong with the leg press, but if you're not doing it right, you're not going to grow. And that's with every workout.
Yeah.
Lower the weight. lower
you-
the weight.
Bro,
Mhm.
I've said this forever. Like, do you want to look like a strong man or do you want to look like a bodybuilder? Because
Exactly.
both look intimidating, but obviously one's way more aesthetic than the other. And the strongman kind of people, yeah, they are very good at moving large amounts of weights, but a lot of it's momentum, biomechanics, and learning how to use their body. They aren't specifying certain muscle groups usually. It's like usually full body compound lifts. So like you said, leg press, yeah, you can get your strength up from biomechanics and momentum, but if you're not isolating muscles you're trying to work and you wonder why your quads look the same as they did when you were fucking 15, like maybe something's got to give. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Diagnosing the problem.
yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Real quick, just to revert to something else, I wanted to ask you guys what you guys do for our second topic today and kind of meshing in. What do you guys do personally for your recovery techniques? I know everyone's got a little different game plan. Is it body work? Is it the amount of time you're stretching? How many rest days? Just want to ask you two, kind of what you guys do on behalf of your recovery and the techniques that you do to make sure you're optimizing your time in the gym.
Body work for sure.
Yeah.
It's huge.
I mean, ask me that when I was in my 20s, I ain't doing shit. Ask me that in my
Yeah.
30s,
Agree.
bro. I'm
When you
stretching,
start to
going
feel
out,
stuff.
going to physical therapy, fucking massage therapy, all of it, bro.
I blame
So
it
it's
on
a new-
football every time. I'm like, oh, football fucked me up. Football fucked my body up, blah, blah, blah. It was not football. It was
It
because
was
I
me.
wasn't, it was me. I was not treating my body right. And now I realized it and now I treat it right.
Yeah. I think when we were kids, I mean, like when you first got into working out, that didn't exist. You're going to the gym 7 times a week, every single week. You first get in the gym, you're seeing gains like every couple of days. Like it's weird, like as a kid, jump off like a staircase and like land on your head and just get up and keep it moving. Nowadays, maybe you need to go to the ER or whatever it is.
Definitely
pretty
need
shortly
to. I
after.
definitely need to.
But it's crazy because I used to think I was like invincible pretty much, like in the gym, and I would train. I thought I was training hard. I really wasn't training hard, probably up until like 2 years ago, to be honest. But I would think like I'm doing everything right. And now being 26, turning 27 in October, I am really starting to, especially in my lower back, and it has a lot to do with my hips, and the more I realize the issue that I have, I'm, more and more maybe getting body work like once every 2 weeks, which isn't a lot. I would suggest even doing it more. If you're going to invest into a coach, into a plan, into your own health, like that is part of the game plan. You need to do these things, whatever it is, chirotherapy, put on the boots. I forget what they're called, the Normatec boots, use the massage gun, get the body work done. All those things are going to help you so much. And I didn't realize this until I started doing it myself for your training sessions. Like it's like a night and day difference, when you're getting that work done. And I know the older you get, the more you need it. But I would suggest starting it,
Now.
earlier. I would suggest starting it earlier because what it will do, same thing it's doing to me in my current phase, in my current like journey of working out, is it's affect like what I was doing a year ago, what I was doing 6 months ago, what I was doing 2 years ago. It's a long-term thing. It affects you and it takes a while to get back to 100%, because it's these little things that add up over time. Let's use a construction worker, for example. Those guys, are bent over, leaning because their whole life they're picking up heavy equipment. It's not a gym. It's not equal weight. They're picking things up and they're injuring themselves long-term, stuff that they were doing in their 20s. Imagine working out, picking up heavy stuff every single day, like what our goals are. It adds up over time. So I would definitely suggest, if you're not using any recovery techniques now, make sure you start to implement that if you are seeing any plateaus. That's why I brought up this topic, because I think they really go hand in hand, with plateaus as well, the recovery techniques.
Brando, yeah, it does. Because when you talk about flexibility, if you lose a lot of flexibility and mobility within a muscle fiber, you're going to hit a plateau, because if you can't elongate that muscle fiber, you're going to also not be able to mechanically get stronger. And that's how shit gets injured, rip, tear, strain, because just not moving throughout 4 range of motion and shit like that. So yeah, you're 100% right. It's funny he's talking about his fucking hips and low back, bro. You not see me back here growing, like wrapping my low back, rubbing that bitch out, just sitting here.
It's always from the hips. Lower back is usually always from the hips.
Weak glutes and hamstrings.
I literally, man, it's like, it was bad. Like during the hurricane season, I know Robbie knew, Caleb, I kind of talked to you a little bit about it in the gym, but you guys know I'm an adjuster as well as a coach. So I would drive, an hour and a half, 2 hours south to where, the hurricane hit when we went through Hurricane Ian. And dude, I was getting to the point I'd have to pull over on the road,
I've been there.
because
I've
my
been there.
lower back was in so much pain. I couldn't even sit. I couldn't sit. It was crazy. I would feel so relieved to get to where I wanted to go and get out of my car and just move around. That was when I first started feeling this. I still to this day go through lower back pains where I'm in the gym squatting, and I use a lot of the Smith machine now because I'm trying to fix, everything that I've done in the past, using the Smith machine a lot because it has a natural, the natural technique of what a squat should be. And still to this day, when I go too heavy, like when I try to push it on those days it is feeling good, immediately I will feel it in my lower back. And even if it's just a little bit, it'll be there. And it's like a subconscious thing once it kicks in. And you got two options, when that pain kicks in, and you guys know what it is. It's like, do I stop? Or like, I know I could put on a little bit more weight, feeling good today, and do it. And then you put that little extra weight on, and I've done this. I'm laying on the gym floor. People are looking at me like, bro, what the hell?
Just waiting for it to like go
down.
And then like eventually, like after 5-10 minutes, it's like gone, and then you get up. Yeah, it's the same exact thing. And I notice it when I don't do body work for a while. When I'm getting my body work done, when I'm stretching, my back is like, I wouldn't say 100. It's always there, but like it's definitely a lot better. But when I don't get it, it's 10 times worse. And you always, whenever you have an injury, it's so funny because you feel the pain when you're working out, but when the bad thing happens is always when you're not working out, when you're doing something little.
Yeah.
And that happens with every one of my clients, everything. Like, for example, my shoulder was bothering me for a really long time. When I worked out, it was fine. It was just like hurting me when I would put the weight down and stuff, right? But then it would bother me. When I pulled out my shoulder, whatever the hell I did, I forgot, AC joint, I was just reaching for my toothbrush in the morning.
Bro, you know why?
But the day before, I was pushing 70s over my head.
Well, bro, because when you're lifting, you're like in it, you're engaged, you're bracing, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. When you're grabbing your toothbrush, you're half-ass asleep. Done.
Boom.
It's always like that. You always know there's a pain before, and then after it's something so stupid like walking your dog.
I had a client who threw out their back tying their fucking shoe, and this guy could deadlift 700 pounds.
Yep, exactly.
Not even playing.
So funny you say that. Yep.
He bent across because he dropped one of the shoelaces. When he bent across his body to grab it, it just went.
Yeah. One other thing about recovery is recovery with like water intake. Water intake's huge during the week. If you're not drinking your water and you're dehydrated, that is gonna shit on your recovery and electrolytes and stuff like that. But I think that's all I got, guys. What about you?
No, that's all I got too. But, at the end of these pods, like, I just like to let everybody know that, me, Robbie, and Caleb, we really appreciate everyone who tunes in. We know we're not no big time podders, we know that we're trying to get there. And, someday we're going to get there. But every viewer, everybody who tunes in, weekly, even bi-weekly, just checks out the pod, listens to us on the way to work. We do this because we really want to, bring education, not only to our clients, but anybody who's interested in expanding their fitness journey. And you're talking to three guys who have been doing it for a long time. And, we're not perfect. We can still learn. And
we learn ourselves,
the reason why we do this pod is to just educate on, the things that we've learned along the way. But I can speak for all of us when we say we appreciate, every viewer, even if we're only getting, 20 views a week, 30 views a week, whatever it is. We appreciate every single one of you guys. So keep tuning in. We're going to keep getting better. And as you guys seen, we've grown a lot already on the pod, getting more comfortable doing it. We won't always just talk about fitness stuff. We'll talk about things that are going on in lifestyle as well, or around the world, things that everybody can relate to. So, we're getting there, appreciate your guys' patience, and thank you for all the viewers we've got so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And also one thing I want to touch on is that we will probably have some guests. So hopefully maybe some doctors that work in fields that will be beneficial to this podcast too. So hopefully we'll get there. We'll get there someday for sure. But yeah, for now, I hope everybody has a great night, a great week.
Yeah, sounds good. Anybody who's tuning in this week, 4 things to remember: drink your water, eat good, pick up heavy things, put them down with good form, and make sure, like we talked about in the beginning, diagnose the issue. whatever you're doing that's not 100%, let's get that to 100% so we can see 100%.
5.
Yep.
Get fucking good sleep.
Yeah, good
Oh, yeah,
sleep.
five,
Okay, I don't
good
know how I
sleep, yeah.
forgot good sleep.
Good sleep,
Caleb's all about the sleep. Caleb's all
Yes,
about the
sir.
sleep.
good sleep, good food, and a lot of sex.
Yeah, amen, brother.
Okay.
All right, y'all.
Now we're talking.
All right. I hope you guys have a good night.